What we've got are students who are saying that they are experiencing boredom, which often leads into distraction, which means then other students get, when they're bored, they start to act out and they begin to distract other students in the class. On top of that, you lay the whole question of bullying, and over half the students say that they are experiencing bullying. But I want to take that beyond just our traditional sense of the word bullying, beyond the traditional sense, in that a lot of students experience pressure not to perform. It is a form of bullying, but you don't want to be the student who stands out raising their hand, always having the answer, getting the good grades. Those kids in way too many of our schools get picked on. Again, online gives them the opportunity to stand out, excel, raise their hand, and only the teacher knows. We do have formats that get classes together, and the student can decide to shine or not shine there. But again, they're not going to experience that personal frustration of being bullied.
I'm sure for all of us that have kids, you know that your children behave much differently when they're in a comfortable environment than when they're in a brand new environment. At least that's true of my kids. And we've had the great opportunity to visit with students across the country that are taking courses through partner schools of ours. And you walk by and you hear them, you listen to them talking to their teachers and asking questions, and they're not afraid if they're mispronouncing words, and they're not ashamed to ask a question that maybe they would be in school. And it's a very safe haven. It's very refreshing to see.
Well, you know, I have to think back to myself as an adult learner and say, did I really want to raise my hand in that physics class, or when we're learning something new at work and I'm confused how to use a new, computer program system, for example. So students aren't any different than we are, and they're experiencing fear as well as boredom at similar rates to us in similar settings.
Hey, Kathy, we got an interesting question. One of the attendees asked if students are more successful if virtual learning is connected to the real classroom, right, which a lot of people are now referring to as blended or hybrid learning, or if they are completely virtual, 100% virtual and disconnected from the classroom. So just be curious to get your feedback on that.
Well, I think that's really kind of the case of the student and the teacher. If the teacher is stimulating, for example, in a hybrid class, and connecting, for example, a project they're working on with what kids are doing in content online, that sets up the student and the class for a very successful experience. Again, you could also be working from home with a virtual teacher who convenes students together to do an extension activity or to do some problem solving around an area where students are confused. And that could also be a very satisfying experience for the student and the teacher. So I don't think one precludes the other. Sometimes it's a question of whether you want to wrap around some services like doing some exploratory or experiential work with a group of students, and so having them face-to-face would be very helpful to do that, where you can now apply the learning that you've just acquired online.
And I also think it gets back to the experience has to be a quality experience for the student, whether they're doing it in an environment that's connected to the brick and mortar setting, or whether they're doing it, home or completely disconnected from a school. It has to be an engaging and challenging experience for the student. And I think it kind of gets back to this slide about their daily concerns of school around being bored and not feeling safe. And so I think this would be a great time for us to tee up a poll question that we have for the attendees to respond to that speaks to, for those of you that are in the classroom setting, how many of you see, boredom? And I would even expand it beyond boredom and just say, how many of you see students that are not engaged on a daily basis for any number of reasons? Could be boredom, could be peer pressure, could be any number of reasons.
Could be tired from working late last night.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't we take a minute and let everyone answer this question, and then we'll move on.
So let me read the questions in case there's someone who's just listening and not actually viewing. The first choice is boredom is something I see every day. And I know that we have some participants who are high school teachers, and we also have some who are college teachers. Now, the second choice is boredom happens, but only for a few of my students. And C, I rarely see boredom in my classroom or school. So I'll be very curious to see what you guys have to say. We're going to leave it up there for a few minutes to allow everyone to react to it. I know that as a former teacher, it was extremely hard to be engaging. I liken teaching to being on the stage. You know, you're kind of performing every minute. And no matter how hard I designed or how clever I thought I was in coming up with a lab or a lesson, sure enough, they fell flat. And there I was trying to be creative and engaging and interesting, and it turned out to be boring. So you can kind of see about 54% of our participants say that boredom is something that they see in their classrooms every day. And again, I thought I was a great performer. I thought I was highly interesting to students, and my students could still be bored when things fell apart and didn't proceed the way they should, or I moved too quickly for some or too slow for others. So the good news, and there is good news here, very good news, our students are hearing our messages. Despite the fact they may be nodding off in the back of the room, they are hearing our message loud and clear, both at home, at school, and in society, that you need to go to college or technical school. You need more training to be successful in life. They rank going on in school #1 thing they want to do after school. So that's really good news for us who've been, who understand what's going to happen to them economically if they don't. But a huge proportion of them are being exposed to minimal, as we would call them, 21st century skills. They know how to get online. They know how to do some research. They use PowerPoint, Excel, Word, some of the basic tools. But what they're lacking are those kind of deep investigation skills, the debate and discussion skills that they'll need to go into college, the rigorous kind of reading they have to do, and that being able to critically analyze. So it's one thing to be able to go online and read a Wikipedia article and quote it as if it's fact. It's another thing to be able to look at that critically and realize where it might not be, what is usable, what should be believed out there. And the good news, one of the things, Greg, that we do so well in online learning is that we make sure every student gets exposed to the skills that we're trying to teach. I know as a teacher, sometimes I'd have a bad day. I'd just leave out something. I would forget to mention it to my third period class. We have teachers who didn't teach fractions because they don't like fractions, in 4th or 5th grade. So online learning will take those higher level 21st century skills and consistently make sure that every student sees the same content. Every student gets the same chance to get the rigorous curriculum they need to, again, being able to go to college and technical schools.
We were at a graduation ceremony, I think about 2 weeks ago, for a large urban school district where they were celebrating the achievements of 1,000 students that had earned their graduation requirements virtually, online, right? So they were connected to the school system. They were doing it in a school environment. And the enthusiasm from these students, and one student in particular who was a dropout, who re-engaged because of virtual learning and its appeal to him in terms of flexibility and being able to work around his schedule. The student was awarded a scholarship to community college, and I heard him referencing to his parents that he never thought he'd have the opportunity to go on to higher education. It was something that he wanted to do, but didn't think he'd be able to. And so there are those kind of stories just across the country that we're seeing that are proving that it's academically viable and that it's a great supplement to what school districts are doing across the country.
Wonderful, wonderful.